Brilliant. Okay. And a very, very warm welcome to everyone who is joining us today at today's Live Well Live webinar. We are live here with you, and I'm very excited to be joined by my co-host Sue, who will introduce herself in a minute. Just to let you know, we are going to be doing a short slide share as normal, and then we'll be coming to your questions. Please do pop any questions you've brought along with you already into the Q&A box if you can find it. Otherwise, please feel free to use a chat box and we'll have a look there. As you know, we're going to be talking all about how to get the best from your GLP-1s. So hopefully you'll have some interesting questions or learn something new today. It is a real pleasure to be here. And we're live every Monday at 1 o'clock. We're here very much to support you on your weight loss journeys. And we want this to be the place you come and bring any questions or any confusion. Please do feel free to ask us anything that is in your head that you need clarification about. We have a couple of polls that we're going to be sharing with you, which are completely anonymous. It's really for us to understand who you are, what's going on for you, and where you are on your weight loss journeys. We want to make this as realistic and helpful for you as possible. So just to let you know, I am Ruth Taylor. I'm the nutritionist with the Boots Online Doctor team. I'm also a registered nurse. And we're joined today by Sue, who's one of the weight loss leads at Boots Online Doctor. So Sue, do say hello and tell us a little bit about where you are, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Ruth, for the introduction. Absolute pleasure to be with you today. So I'm Dr. Sue Keneally. It says on the screen that I'm a GP, but I do very little in the way of GP work anymore. I work full time as a weight loss physician now, both for Boots and in the NHS, where I lead two specialist weight management services from a medical perspective. So I'm all about weight loss. It's all I think about all day, every day when I'm in work. I hope that I can help answer a lot of your questions later.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Sue. And we are joined by Adna, who's here to support us with any technical queries and to share resources with you that we will think might be helpful for you today. So really, let's get cracking. So tell us, how's your last week been? Last week, I think we were talking about making habits and cravings. So how has your week been? How have you managed to do anything? How's everyone feeling? It'd be great to hear. I think I have been focusing on trying to get to bed earlier, which is always something I find quite tricky, just because I seem to get into that zone late at night. So that's my thing I'm working on at the moment, a little bit better. We've also shared our first poll with you. So please do take a look at that to remind you this is completely anonymous. It's really so we get an understanding of where you are in terms of your understanding of GLP-1s, whether it's something you've been using for a while, whether you've just started, and really how you're feeling on your current dose. It's really important for us to know this because then we can direct the information in today's webinar directly to what's happening for you. So thank you so much for taking the time. Again, this is completely anonymous, so we'll get a sense of perspective about everyone here. Other than that, we don't know any names or any of the sort of personal information related to the answers that you're giving us. So I can see that the majority of you have been using a GLP-1 for quite a while, which is helpful to know. There's a few of you who are new to taking a GLP-1 that you've just started, and a few that are increasing your dose. And I can see there's a few of you who are not currently using a GLP-1, so thank you for joining us. If you've got any questions that relate to your weight loss journey that aren't related to GLP-1s, do feel free to ask them. We will be covering some helpful information for you as well today, hopefully, which is related to that whole weight loss journey. And I can see that the majority of you are experiencing mild side effects that have settled. Sort of a few of you have got quite significantly reduced appetite. So yeah, really interesting to know. And we will come back to that in a little while. So thank you for sharing your experiences with us. That's really helpful. So any good wins this week? Let's have a quick look. Brilliant. Some people have been drinking more water, so Rachel, well done for that. And reducing carbs, well done for that. Increasing water again, so lots of water coming in here. Continuing to gradually lose weight. So seem to be struggling with the last £7. Well done for getting there, Daff. We will pick up on that if you've got any specific questions. You've had a really good week, Jill, but it's not reflected on the scales. That can happen. Don't lose sight of it. Think about your energy. Think about something else that you might be feeling great about. Is it that your clothes are feeling really comfy? What's going on that isn't just about the numbers on the scales? Have a really good think, because otherwise we can get caught up in the emotional impact of not seeing something that we were hoping to on the scales, and it can completely derail us content. So let's think about your why. This is really important as your anchor very much for why you're on this journey, why you're maybe taking a weight loss medication, why you're maybe not. What is it that is really important for you? Is it that you're on your weight loss journey? Are you at the point at which you're thinking, okay, I need to now maintain the weight that I've lost? Whichever part of your journey you're on, whether it's in the middle, at the beginning, or at the end, actually knowing your reason for wanting to maintain your health, to maintain your weight loss, is really important. And what we suggest you do is really drill down about why this is important to you. Is it because you want to feel more energy? Is it because you want better sleep? Is it that you want to look good in clothes? It doesn't matter what your reason is. It's about you. It's about finding what your whole emotional connection is. Is it because you want to be able to go bodyboarding? That's mine. I love bodyboarding. Being fit and healthy is crucial to me. Every time I get in that water in my wetsuit, I'm like, yes, this is my why. This is what's important to me. We're all different. So, as well as having those external motivations, it's really important to think about what's going on for you emotionally, because that emotional connection is really important. It's okay, and it's very likely that this will change while your journey continues, and your reasons for wanting to stay at a certain weight can become different what you expected. That's okay, but just keep a connection, keep an understanding, and don't make it all about the numbers on the scales, because that can be very destabilizing. Wouldn't you agree, Sue? I think it's such a key thing to be thinking in a broad sense.
Oh, absolutely. And I love what you said about knowing your why, and particularly not worrying too much about whether you think your why is good enough, because I've prescribed this medication for probably hundreds or thousands of patients now. And for people who are receiving these prescriptions appropriately, I've never yet heard a why that I didn't think was fantastic. Okay. And they're all individual and, as you say, different for everybody. So if it's the thing that's keeping you motivated, that's great. Very, very happy about that. Um, should I start talking about how GLP-1s work?
Yeah, go for it. There's some brilliant
Yeah,
comments in the chat box. So thanks for everyone for sharing your personal reasons. It's really nice to know. We'll have a look
yeah,
at
yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of how GLP-1s work, then, or we should call them weight loss medications now, because increasingly going forward, there are going to be different types of medications that don't necessarily work on GLP-1, but they will be weight loss medications. But GLP-1 specifically, for today. So they work by mimicking the natural hormone glucagon-like peptide 1, GLP-1, which is released from your intestines after you eat. And that has the effect of helping your body regulate appetite, digestion, and your blood sugar. So how it works. And if you're on Manjaro, you'll also be manipulating your GIP hormone. And what I'm about to say about GLP-1 applies to GIP as well. It's a different hormone, but it does all the same things in a very similar way. So they slow down how fast food moves through you. So sits physically in your stomach, taking up space for longer, so you feel fuller for longer. And they also act directly on your brain's appetite centers to decrease your cravings and reduce your overall food intake. You might experience this, not everybody does, but a lot of people will describe that as dialing down the food noise. So when the people who were making these medications started talking about how they were going to manipulate GLP-1, they started talking about how they were going to decrease or increase the length of time that food took to move through you, and to have the central effects on the brain to reduce your appetite. Nobody talked about food noise because we didn't know about it. It was something that our patients told us about. They said, yeah, I've got less food noise, doctor. And we didn't really know what that was until you all made us aware of it. So thank you for that. And so that's part of how they work. If you get food noise, and not everybody does, they help to turn that down a lot. And they also have effects on your pancreas to regulate your blood sugar more effectively. Um, so that's essentially how they work when you take them. Then over time, you should notice that you get improved control of your blood sugar if that's needed, a reduction in your body weight, which is presumably why you're taking it from us. And then in the longer term, many associated health benefits, including liver health and heart health, and probably many others as well, although there's more evidence emerging all the time about those. But overall, obviously, we're prescribing for the weight loss, and you should see your weight start to reduce over time. So let's talk about dosing. The manufacturers say this, and this is our experience too: start low and go slow is the thing to remember. So begin very slowly. Um, we'll only ever prescribe you the lowest dose as your starting dose because that's the licensed dose. That's what the manufacturers recommend. And that's what we know will keep you safe, which is one of our prime concerns. So the best dose is always the lowest dose that works for you. So if you're thinking, well, I'm not sure, my weight is starting to come down and that's great, and I might like to speed this up a little bit, and my side effects are very manageable or non-existent because lots of people don't get side effects, then by all means think about increasing your dose. But if you're not sure and thinking, well, the weight's coming off fairly well, but I am getting some side effects, or actually I'm quite happy with this rate of weight loss, and I'm not sure whether to increase my dose or not. A good rule of thumb is don't increase your dose. If you're ever thinking about two different doses and deciding between the two, and you're really not sure, a good decision is to go with the lower one. So only increase it if you really need to. And going slowly helps to reduce the side effects. We also know that it helps to reduce the risk of significant side effects that might make you feel quite unwell, and also helps your body to adapt gradually. Your body doesn't like shocks. So introducing this quite gently to your body is a very good idea. It's going to help you adjust to it very smoothly. And remember, everybody's journey is different. So please don't compare yourself too much to what's happening on social media because, as we know, only the very best and the very worst responses to anything in life these days get posted on social media. The person who's having a fairly average response and getting on well doesn't really talk about it very much. So please don't be too alarmed if your response isn't the same as other things that you're seeing online. And if in doubt, please just message us if we're prescribing for you, and we'll be able to tell you whether what you're experiencing is normal.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Sue. That's really helpful. I love the go start low, stay low sort of advice. The sort of taking it very gently. There's lots of questions. I can see some lovely comments coming through and also some really helpful comments from other people who are here. Sort of somebody's asked what food noise is. And I can see, Chris, you've replied with what your experience of food noise is. If you have a different experience, please do pop it in the chat box and we'll pick that up when we get to the Q&A. But that's really interesting. And I guess for me, as your nutritionist, this is where lifestyle is really important. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And I almost think we almost need to think of lifestyle as part of the journey, almost part of the prescription. Because what we know is that the GLP-1 cannot change your stress patterns. It can't change your sleep routines. It can't make you get to bed earlier. It can't make you stay there longer. So it's really about thinking about the aspects of your lifestyle that perhaps are getting in your way, that are perhaps tripping you up and are going to stop you from that healthy life that you're aiming to live, because life is more than weight. It's about really understanding, your energy, your vitality, having that zest for life when you wake up in the morning. So we recommend that you use our lifestyle medicine tools. We have an online weight loss course a weight loss program, a 10-week weight loss program that we promote. We also have got podcasts. We've got all of the previous recordings of all of the previous webinars. So if this is your first time here, then do have a look at those, because we 100% want to support you on your journey, whether that's through taking a GLP-1, but also pairing that with thinking about what is it that's been getting in your way. Is it that you're addicted to certain foods? Is it that there are certain foods that once you've started eating them, you can't stop eating them? Is it that actually you need to really think about your hydration and whether you're drinking lots of teas and coffees but not very much water? There's generally a few things for everyone, so it can be a combination. We recommend when you're making lifestyle changes that you go for the lowest hanging fruit. You go for the things that you can manage to start addressing straight away. For many people who are taking a GLP-1, addressing what and how you eat can be a big part of that journey. So, Adna, if you could share our GLP-1 meal planner, that would be brilliant. And also just the meal planner in general. That can be a great place to start. And also thinking about your sort of like lifestyle and thinking what's going on for you. So I can see actually we've asked you in a poll where you are in your weight loss journey. So can you see this as well? So we've got quite a few people who have just started, quite a few people who are midway through, and a smaller number, but a fairly significant number who are now in that maintenance phase or heading towards that maintenance phase. So thank you for telling us. It's really helpful for us to know what's going on for you as well. And again, those polls are completely anonymous. And what's going on for you in terms of your lifestyle? Um, Also, somebody's asking for links to the previous webinar recordings, Adna. So if you can have a share a link for those, that would be great. So Sue, back to you. I think you're going to talk about the common side effects, which is really pertinent for many people here today, and how to manage them.
Yeah, absolutely. So important because it can make such a difference to your weight loss journey. The first thing to say is about half of people don't experience side effects. So if you're in the fortunate half, well done you. It doesn't suggest that you're going to have less of a benefit from the weight loss medication. Particularly in my NHS clinic, I get patients coming in saying, but I don't feel rubbish, doctor, it's not working. And we stand people on the scales, and of course, it's working fine. So please don't worry. I know that's a common worry that people have. But if you're in the 50% who do get side effects, generally speaking, you'll be expecting probably mild versions of one or two. Some people get more, some people get unpleasant side effects. But on average, if you get side effects, it tends to be mild versions of one or two of them. And they tend to be fairly easy to manage. So the most common side effects, a lot of them are to do with the fact that the food is slowing down as it goes through you. So people talk about nausea, constipation, diarrhea, heartburn, eggy burps is a pleasant one, and then nausea, vomiting, and down the bottom end, diarrhea. Fatigue is a big one, and then there are some serious side effects that I can talk about in a minute. But let's just go through the ones that people get worried about the most. With nausea, it's good advice to eat more slowly, eat smaller portions more regularly if you need to. Try and identify any foods that might trigger your nausea, and that can typically be spicy or rich food. So you might need to eat slightly more bland foods. Uh, Try staying hydrated. That can be a big one for nausea. Very often, if you're not eating enough, it could also mean you're not drinking enough because the body signals to our brain are very similar for thirst and hunger. So try having a drink because it may be that your body's just crying out for some liquid. For constipation, again, hydration is really important. I struggle to think of a reason why hydration would not be important, but it's particularly something to think about if you are constipated. Add fiber in your diet, and I do have some patients who buy fiber supplements that they take to go with their already reasonably fiber-containing diet. And movement. Physical activity doesn't have to be hardcore exercise in the gym. It can just be walking or whatever you can manage. Moving helps to keep your bowels moving. For reflux or bloating, again, very similar to nausea, smaller meals and avoid lying down after eating. And another top tip from me that we haven't put on the slide, don't eat too close to bedtime because that can make a big difference because you will be lying down, hopefully, at bedtime. So eating your last meal of the day earlier can help. With fatigue, make sure you're eating enough. Sometimes people get tired simply because they're not taking in enough energy. So have a look at what you are eating and make sure that you are eating at least a reasonable amount of calories. Because it is sometimes possible with these medications to get to the point where you have to remind yourself to eat because they do switch off your appetite maybe a little bit too much. We need to prioritize food because we still need nutrition, we still need nutrients, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, all those things. And the best place to get those is from food. So make sure you're eating enough. If you're doing all of that, then there's no other easy fix. So it's about then managing it. So prioritizing rest, get your rest when you need to, make sure you get plenty of time in bed. I'm really not a fan of this 24/7 society where it seems that getting 3 hours a night is some kind of badge of honor. You will never find me at my 6 a.m. class in the gym. It's not going to happen. So prioritize your rest. It's so important for so many other reasons as well. Hydration, as we've said, and then making sure that you're eating enough protein. You don't need to become a total protein head, but just make sure that you're eating about the same amount of protein as you were eating before you started medication. So same amount of protein and less of the other things is what we're looking for. Then for serious side effects, thankfully these are rare. So the main one that we worry about is pancreatitis. That's where you get quite nasty abdominal pain up towards the top of your tummy, almost in between your ribs. Can feel a bit like heartburn, can feel a little bit like bloating and trapped wind, but it's different. It's more serious. It doesn't come and go, and it really does feel very, very painful if it kicks in. So I usually say to patients, you don't generally need to call me to say, I think I've got pancreatitis. If you have got pancreatitis, the decision you'll be thinking is, shall I be going to hospital? And if you think you've got pancreatitis, then the answer is yes, you probably should. Ruth, I think that's my main take on the side effects. Did you have anything else to add there?
No, I think that's covered it. We've had a few comments in the chat box, which is interesting. Somebody is saying that they're experiencing headaches and dizziness. Quite often, we find that might be related to not eating enough, and that can be something to really think about. Maybe your dose needs adjusting down. Occasionally, if you're really struggling to eat. Other people are saying that somebody's saying that they really are having problems with sleeping as a side effect. And somebody is also saying that they've lost quite a lot of hair. So thank you for sharing that. It is helpful. So any comments about those other two things, or should we pick them up when we get to the Q&A section?
Whichever you normally do. So we need to remember that it's about sleep and hair loss,
Yeah,
right?
we'll pick it
Okay,
up.
we can do that.
All righty, let's move on then. So yes, think about, your long-term outcome really. What is it you're aiming for? Think about using the GLP-1 as creating the space to build some new habits. It's about really getting everything in place for yourself. I've noticed there's a couple of comments in the chat box from people who are nearing the end of their weight loss journey and they're feeling a bit nervous or maybe even a little bit scared about coming off the GLP-1, which I can understand. It's sort of like is quite a significant thing. So we'll talk about that again when we get to the Q&A. But really try and think about this whole GLP-1 journey as a mechanism of really strengthening your intentions and your habits. As Sue's already said, it's about eating the right foods. It's not being about being perfect. It's just about making sure you've got that good nutrition on board. Use the meal builder. It's a really helpful and very simple tool. It isn't about rocket science. You don't have to become chefs. You just need good nutrition, really. Try and monitor your hunger cues. Make sure you are hydrated. Hydration is really key, and a lot of people confuse hunger with hydration or thirst and hunger. So, really, if you haven't had a drink, maybe start with a drink and keep hydrated, and really think about what you can do in terms of your sort of lifestyle pillars and what you can do to really support this being the answer for you in the long term. What we know is we want you to be maintaining your muscle mass. We want you to be keeping strong muscles during this process. So that comes from a combination of factors like balancing your blood sugars, eating that protein in with every meal, getting that movement in and strengthening your muscles. But you don't have to become bodybuilders. You just need to be doing a little bit of resistance exercise alongside moving. So do think about all of those things. And we've got our final poll, which we're going to share with you now, I think, Adna, which is about the what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be focusing on over the next few weeks. And then Sue, I'm going to hand back over to you.
Okay, so while we're waiting for you all to complete the poll, I'll just take it away from my screen so I can see what we're doing. Okay, when and how to stop, or if to stop. So weight loss medication is a bridge for many people. It can be a stepping stone to where you want to get to on your weight loss journey, and many people see it as something that they take for a period of maybe 6 to 12 months, maybe 2 years, something like that, and then they intend to stop. And that's absolutely fine. And what we would advise is a gradual taper. So if you're on a reasonable dose of a GLP-1 based medication, then in the same way, well, maybe not in the same way, similarly to how I said earlier, the key thing to think about when you're starting is to start low and go slow. Now, there isn't any reason why you shouldn't just stop it completely. Say, for example, you find yourself in a position where I'm in a medical world, so let's talk about medical things. You end up meeting with a surgeon who says, listen, you need a relatively urgent operation. Can I operate on you in the next 2 to 3 weeks, please? For that, you would need to stop your medication. And there's no reason why you shouldn't just stop it absolutely at that point without doing any tapering. And that's a question I get quite often. So if it's medically necessary, absolutely just stop it. It's fine. However, if we're talking about the long term and your health and weight maintenance and all the other things, then it's better to taper it down gradually. There's reasonable evidence now that if you do stop it slowly rather than suddenly, then you're more likely to keep more weight off in the long term. Just to address one of the comments I get a lot online, people say, well, weight loss medication, there's no point in taking it because it only works while you take it. To my mind, that is an argument for taking it. I see that as a strong positive. But in the same way as if you take medication for your blood pressure and you stop taking your blood pressure medication, unless something else has changed in the interim, you expect your blood pressure to go back up. If you take medication for your cholesterol will go down. And if you stop it, unless you've changed something else in the meantime, you expect your cholesterol to go back up. And that's why you stay on blood pressure and cholesterol medication and lots of other things as well. So we can talk about HRT, contraception, many, many other medications that people take every day, because if they stop taking them, their body goes back to a way that is less healthful for them. Same with weight loss medication. Once we stop manipulating your GLP-1 or GIP hormones or whatever else we might be able to do in the future, once you stop taking that medication, your hormones will go back to where they were. And as such, your brain will start trying to put your body composition back to where it was, which in this case means possibly regaining weight, which is why a lot of people experience weight regain after stopping weight loss medications. So one way of helping with that is to stop it slowly, because then you sort of coax your brain into being a little bit more gentle with you, so it's not having to adapt quite so abruptly. And then the other thing is to put all the lifestyle things in place. So this is when it becomes often quite a bit of a battle for people. So please do put the foundation steps in place. So as Ruth was saying, balanced meals, protein at every meal. Protein helps to release some of your most appetite suppressing hormones. So it's not the only thing. Fiber and water also help to regulate your appetite very effectively. But we tend to remember to eat carbohydrates and fat quite easily. It's not necessarily that easy to think of protein. So remember protein at every meal. Be very aware of how your emotions are responding, and think about any work you might need to do from that point of view, because that can be really helpful. And then just thinking about other things. Bear with me while I just get to where I need to be. The last thing I wanted to talk about was physical activity, and this is where activity comes into its own. So when we talk about physical activity or exercise, and they're not necessarily the same thing. Exercise is a form of activity, but there are others. The amount of activity you need to do to actually lose weight makes it quite tricky for most of us. It's really important that you do move when you're trying to lose weight because it helps. And it also gives you better health and more energy and all that kind of thing, helps you regulate your sleep more effectively. I always say that if exercise was available as a pill, it would be a wonder drug, and I could probably retire if I could prescribe it to people because everybody would want the benefits that exercise brings. So lots of reasons why you should exercise or engage in physical activity while you're on medication. But where exercise comes into its own and there's no real comparison with anything else is keeping weight off once you've lost it. So for weight loss maintenance, physical activity stroke exercise is absolutely key, and it's more important then than it really is at any other time. So really make sure that you keep moving. I'm sorry if I've gone on about that a little bit too much, but it's one of my big soapboxes. You can't underestimate exercise. It's amazing. Okay, over to you, Ruth.
Yeah, so that could be movement in any form. And we often have people here who really struggle with movement for various health reasons. So it's about finding something that works with you. And we have a whole lovely series of exercise resources available for you. So, Adna, if you could share the link for that. And that's for anyone who is able to move even a small amount. And it's sort of a progressive amount of exercise, different mechanisms for people at different stages of their ability to move. So, have a look at those. They're really supportive videos that have been made specially by the Boots Online Doctor team. So really fantastic resource to share. So thank you. So yeah, just think about all of the things that we can do to support you. I thought I'd put this together just to remind you what there is that's available. We obviously have the GLP-1 meal builder, which we've shared. We've got the mood and food diary, which can be really helpful for you to begin noticing patterns around when and how you eat. I noticed people were talking about food noise quite a lot in the chat box. So it might actually be interesting to check in with yourself and see when that food noise is appearing. Is it when you're tired? Is it when you haven't had a good night's sleep? Is it because you had a really light breakfast that perhaps didn't hold you later on in the evening? Because what happens earlier in the day can make a big difference to what happens later on in the day. We've got the 10-week weight loss course, which is available via the website. We've got the podcast with quite a few brilliant recorded episodes. So really have a look at those. And of course, we are here every week to 100% support you. I'm not going to labour on too much because I can see we have a lot of questions to get to. The key take-home messages today are really everything that we've always gone through. The start low, the stay low sort of approach to using a GLP-1. Use it for titrating down when you get to your maintenance phase. So titrate down through the doses so that you gradually wean yourself off that GLP-1 and really put in place all of the lifestyle medicine approaches. And again, managing side effects. If you have any problems, contact the team that prescribed your GLP-1. So do get in touch with us at the Boots Online Doctor if that is relevant to you. Let you know what we've got coming up for the webinars over the next few weeks. We are going to be here every Monday through December, all over Christmas and New Year. So do feel free to join us, and we're here to give you some support and really to, anything that you would like to know. We will very much endeavour to support you with that. So Sue, I'm going to close the slide deck down, and we're now going to come to your questions. We have a lot of questions, so we will do our best to get through them. Somebody's asking about stopping injections cold turkey. So it depends why, doesn't it? So if it's medical reasons or for side effects reasons, yes, we would say otherwise titrate down. That's what you were recommending, Sue, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's better if you can. Of course, the other thing that we haven't talked about is cost. And I'm finding increasingly that people are talking about reducing it suddenly because the price has gone up. So that would be another very understandable reason. But if you can, tapering down has many benefits. So stopping it slowly is better if you can.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so let's try and put all of these together. Somebody's saying they feel really tired immediately after eating a meal before starting Minjaro. This only happens after a big meal, but now it happens even after a small meal, but not always. Anything I can do to avoid this? I would say maybe slow down and maybe the exercise to improve that insulin sensitivity. So even just doing some squats or just some press ups against the wall after a meal to see how that goes, just to really help boost your insulin uptake of glucose. What would you say, Sue?
Yeah, I think you've covered it. That's fabulous.
Okay, all right. Somebody is saying that they have been on Minjaro since February, lost 2 stone, which is brilliant, but seem to have stuck there. So beginning to think that there you are where you need to be or where your body's happy. So how long should that person stay on Manjaro for, would you recommend to do? That's a how long is a piece of string question, isn't it? But
It can be, yes. So of course it depends what your starting weight was. So we expect um, with Manjaro, we expect it to take a particular percentage of your weight off you, and 2 stone might just mean that you're getting to the point where the medication is doing the maximum is going to do for you. Um, Hopefully not if you feel like you've got more weight that you want to lose. Most people are right about that. So it could be that you've just hit a plateau, in which case it's all about all the pillars of lifestyle medicine that I'm sure Ruth has talked to you about a lot over the webinars that she's been doing all the time. As a background, I'm also qualified as a nutritionist and a certified lifestyle physician, but I leave all this to Ruth and Sam because they're fabulous. But at least I speak the language. So, in terms of a plateau, if that's what we think it might be, then it's going to be all about non-scale victories is what we talk about. So making sure you're optimizing your nutrition, your physical activity. I noticed the person in the Q&A who asked that mentioned they were 73. So maybe you're not able to be as active as you were previously. There are different kinds of 73-year-olds. I don't know you. But maybe you could try being a bit more active, and then it'll be about other things like prioritizing sleep, rest, managing any stress, and so on, and seeing if just pushing through a little bit longer will persuade your body that it's okay to lose a little bit more weight. Because maybe it's just a plateau that you're going to get through, and you might find in the next several weeks or so, your brain might go, "Oh, you still want to lose more weight? Oh, okay, I'll let that happen." It might just be adjusting.
yeah. So somebody else asked about plateau. So the same really is relevant for you. It's about that weight loss plateau. Things can really just become static for a while. It can be really frustrating. Do all the things that Steve's been talking about, all of those lifestyle things, carry on, don't give up. And suddenly your body will just go, okay, here we go again. So, and actually, the research says that actually that plateau, the staying the same, can actually be a good thing in terms of recalibrating something called your set point. And actually, so that may in the long term be a helpful step. We don't know, but we think it could be. Somebody's asking about food. When having dairy food like cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, is it better to choose a fat-free or a full-fat option? I always thought fat-free meant high sugar. So which is better? I would say go for the sort of lower fat option, but not the no fat. We do need some healthy fats. And I think that would be where I would go. Steve's nodding, so we're both on that one.
Yeah, I suppose you need to see it in the context of your overall diet, don't you? So if you're getting no fat from anywhere else, then maybe you would choose a full fat version. But as a general rule of thumb, the lower fat, as long as it's not replaced with loads of sugar, is probably the best way to go.
Okay, brilliant. Let's see what other things have we got coming up. So if we've got trends. Will you lose more on a high dose? Great question. What do you think, Sue?
Probably. Yeah. So when they did the original trials on this, one of the things obviously they wanted to know was what doses they should be prescribing. And yes, the evidence is that on average, the higher your dose, the more weight you will lose. But it's not linear. So by that, I mean, if you're taking 5 milligrams of Manjaro and you decide to go to 7.5 and then to 10, so you've effectively doubled your dose, that doesn't necessarily double the rate of weight loss. But we would expect it to be more than it was on 5 milligrams. But how much more and how quickly it'll all happen and so on is very difficult to predict. One of the things that I know is being researched a lot by my learned academic friends currently is how to be able to tell someone at the beginning what their response is likely to be to the medication. And at this point, we don't really know what it's going to be until you've been on it for probably 3 to 6 months. And then we can predict, based on your response to date, what it's likely to do in the future. But at this point, we don't have enough evidence to be able to say if you go on this dose, you in particular are going to lose X amount of kilos or pounds. It doesn't work that way. But generally speaking, the higher the dose, the more you should expect to lose on average.
Brilliant. And I think that might be in the realms of when they look at people who've been taking GLP-1s and compare it with their genetics and their genetic SNPs, we might get that level of research. So we're probably a few years away from that. But it'll be
Yeah,
really interesting when we get there. And we'll be
yeah.
very excited to share that when we do. Somebody's talking about emotional eating, how the GLP-1 prevents appetite but doesn't impact emotional eating. I think that's very true. We have a whole webinar that we run around emotional eating. So please have a look at the replay and come to the next time that we run that. And there are lots of resources out there for emotional eating. We had a really great webinar with myself and one of the weight loss team who was a really helpful webinar. So do have a look at that. I know it can be really tricky, so sorry you're experiencing that, but there is a lot of help out there. Somebody's asking about previous webinars, so we have shared a link. Adna, if you could share the link again, that would be great. I'm just picking up some quick ones so we can get to some more nitty-gritty questions. Does lemon and ginger tea count towards your water intake? Yes, absolutely. And water with lemon in or water with a fruit flavour in, as in fresh fruit or vegetables or herbs. Fantastic way of enjoying your water. Okay, so let's see. Interesting question. Somebody's saying that they've got to go into hospital now, so hopefully review and come off her CPAP. So thank you for sharing that. Please, can you send the link to listen on catch up? We will do that. I'm currently on 12.5 milligrams of Manjaro, lost 3 stone since April, worrying on cost, but unsure if the others won't work as well. Is there a better choice out of them? I really don't have side effects. Is there a reason you're going to come off Manjaro? It'd be really nice to know what your reason is. If you're free and happy, you can put something in the chat box and we'll pick that up from there if you want to give us a little bit more detail. It could be that you could restart the Manjaro when you come back out of hospital once you've had a gap, if you're having an anaesthetic, wouldn't you say, Sue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends what operation you're having and why and all those kinds of things. And it's very important to remember that if you have had a gap of more than 14 days, then we do need to recommend a lower dose for you. So don't just restart your 15 milligrams. Okay, do let us know what you've been up to with the other medical teams or surgical teams, and we'll be able to advise accordingly.
Okay, so somebody struggling with constipation alongside taking Manjaro, so wanting some advice about whether they can take some fiber sachets daily.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds good. Make sure you're optimizing your nutrition as well, because there's no substitute for healthy food. But if you're doing that well or reasonably well, we don't want to aim for perfection because that in itself is an eating disorder. But if you're doing relatively well with your diet, then absolutely, fiber supplements can be great.
Yeah, and we often recommend things like kiwis for constipation. Eating them with your skin on up to 6 a day can be quite amazing. So see how you get on with that. Also, flaxseed and water can be quite helpful. So see, just mixing it, soaking it, and then mixing it into some food. But see how you go with that. Good luck. Let us know if and if you're a Boots Online doctor customer, please do, or patient, please do email in, let us know what's going on. We can give you some more specific advice outside of the webinar, which is probably the better way to get that advice. Lots of people being quite scared to stop and the fear of putting weight back on or stopping, and then would it be okay to restart? So do you want to talk to that, and I'll pick out all of those questions.
Yeah, so as we said in the slides, the safest way to do it from a weight regain point of view is to stop slowly, so reduce really gradually. And I find a lot of patients, both in Boots Online and in the NHS, say to me, well, what is my maintenance dose going to be? If there is one, can I just stop? Or if I want to stay in it long term, what dose are you going to prescribe for me? And my standard response is, you're going to tell me what your maintenance dose is, because you will reduce down to a certain level and say, oh, this is okay. I hope you'll have this experience that it feels okay, that I'm still eating a healthy diet. I'm still not eating so much that I'm worried I'm going to regain weight. I don't have the food noise coming back. For those of you who've said, what's food noise? Bless you, you lucky people who don't have food noise. I don't get it either. But I'm realizing doing this job just how fortunate I am not to get it. A lot of people wake up every morning and the first thing they think of is food, and there's a little voice in their head going, eat food, eat food, eat food, get treats, eat chocolate, eat crisps, eat whatever. And it's absolutely genuine and it's irresistible and it's really difficult to work with. So if you've got used to not having that anymore, the thought of it coming back can be quite terrifying, to be honest, and I don't blame people for feeling that way. So you might find as you lower a dose that the food noise starts to creep back in if you got it before. It's not going to magically come from nowhere if you didn't have it before. Um, and you may find that you're absolutely fine, in which case you come down to the next dose. But eventually you may get to a point where you think, oh, hang on, that those things Sue was talking about I seem to be eating more. I can finish my plate where I didn't used to be able to. My little voice in my head's come back. Um, then that suggests you need to either stay on that dose for a while until you get settled on it, or go back up a bit. So that's what we mean by titrating down and then restarting medication. Yes, absolutely. As long as you are in the kind of weight range where we would recommend medication. So not necessarily you've gone back up to your starting weight. We don't expect that. But if your weight started, if you've been one of our patients and your weight has started heading back up from where you were before, at your lowest weight. And we look at your request for medication and think, well, actually, if they'd stayed on medication at this point, we would have carried it on for them without really questioning it very much. Then we'd be happy to restart it for you. So that's not too much of a concern.
There's a couple of comments here. I'm really
Yeah,
helpful from somebody's been in the chat box.
yeah.
All of the information. Obviously, we're talking about GLP-1s generally. Manjaro is just something that we've had a lot of questions about. But
Mhm.
all of everything we're talking about today does equally apply to any other GLP-1 orientated medication, so such as Wegovy. So sorry if that was confusing for anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, it totally relates to there's a question about why we only offer four of each pen. When we give you a new prescription, it gives you the current medication and three further refills. We like to then reassess you medically to make sure you are still safe to have that medication and whether that dose is working for you. We would then very happily prescribe you another four pens. It is just a safety mechanism to make sure that everything is safe to continue with. We are a very highly skilled and trained and knowledgeable team. We want to do the best for you. And that is why we don't give you a lifelong subscription to medications. We want to make sure medically it's a sensible decision. So I hope that makes sense as well. Would you agree? Anything you'd want to add on that, Sue?
No, absolutely. You've obviously done this before.
No, no, I do think so. Somebody is making a comment, and it's a really helpful comment to make, and I think it alludes to all of those TikTok stories that we see a lot of. Um, somebody saying they know someone who's lost 5.5 stone in 6 months, but is only really having a slim fast for lunch and meat and veg for dinner. Goes to the gym every day. Sounds dangerous but tempting. Totally agree. It's like having this little carrot dangled in front of you, isn't it? Saying, do this and it's going to be fantastic. We know 100%, we read all of the research that actually the slow, initially, if you have a considerable amount of weight to lose, you can probably lose weight quite quickly without it having any adverse effects to your ability to maintain that weight loss. But as you get closer and closer to your goal weight, you want to be slowing your weight loss down to around 1 to 2 pounds a week or half to 1 kilo a week so that you've got, you are maintaining a healthy body composition. You want to be really maintaining that muscle mass. That's the key. You want to be losing fat, maintaining muscle. And the way to do that is through a slower progression as the closer you get to your goal. That's why we have created the other resources about how to eat, the what to eat, the when to eat. All of these things become really important to put some focus in, and then also the movement. So please do also think about that because it's crucial that you get that aspect of it right because that's going to set you up for your long-term success. Can't really explain that. So ignore those people with those dangly carrots who are doing really crazy things. We aren't advocating that at all. We're advocating slow, steady, sensible. Somebody's saying that they may be starting a 5 milligram dose, presumably that's of Manjaro, but worried it will be too much. I would say, so I don't know what you think. If your instinct is telling you that might be too much, maybe your instinct is telling you to down 2.5. See, what do you think?
As I said, when we were going through the presentation, if you're not sure and you're deciding between two doses, usually the right answer is to go for the lower dose. Not always, but usually.
Somebody is saying that they're taking a GLP-1 and it's helping them with their sleep, and it's probably really effectively helping with sleep. Can you explain why that might be?
No, I'm delighted to hear it. But I can't put that together in my head in terms of how GLP-1 or GIP,
I'm
if you're also
wondering if
on the journey, would
it's
be.
that sort of like anti-inflammatory effect that it might be having. But I'm just trying
Yeah,
to think about the
yeah.
the sort of mechanisms. Need to go away and research.
Yeah, is it reducing your pain? Have you got some psoriasis that has gone away that you're not itchy anymore? But in terms of promoting sleep, I haven't seen that. In fact, we must go back because we were asked about sleep and hair loss, weren't we?
Yeah, great.
Disturbed sleep is more often the problem, not sleeping better. But I'm delighted to hear it. You must tell us your secret.
Yeah, very much. With the hair loss, I think it is a known side effect, and I think some people do have a more significant response in terms of having more hair loss. I haven't read anything about. I think you should have that hair regrowth uh,
Yeah.
at the
So
end of your journey.
yeah, so when I first started prescribing these medications, the representatives from the manufacturers tell me to tell you that the hair loss can happen, but it's usually mild, and I'm sorry if that hasn't been your experience, but also it's pretty much always temporary. So you should expect hair regrowth.
Okay, thanks, Sue. And somebody's saying then the hair has also become thinner. So have a look at, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that again. I mean, have a look. There may be some supplements that can be helpful for hair management. So do have a look on the main Boots website, because I know they do have some supplements, and all of the products that they sell on there are completely researched as well. And if you're worried about whether something's safe to take alongside your GLP-1, and you're a Boots Online doctor customer, do just check with us and we will check for you if if you've got any concerns about that. Somebody's asking about, if they reduce their dose and then they start putting on weight, can they increase it again? There's a couple of questions around those. So
Yeah. Yeah, sounds entirely reasonable, doesn't it?
yeah, absolutely. I think it's just scary when you don't understand how these medications work, and also just what happens. Somebody's made a comment about the fact it's a very new medication, and really we don't have those years and years of experience. I think what we do know is that the medication was used for people with diabetes before being licensed for people with weight management. So we have a body of research that is being brought forward from those times as well. So we draw on all of those experiences too. What we don't know, absolutely, we don't know. We don't have that longevity of research. So we know that this is relatively new medications, and we are keeping an eye on all of the research as we go through. We obviously want to do our best for you as well. So some of those sort of long-term issues in terms of whether you can stay on this long term, we believe from the experience of working with hundreds of thousands of people that there is safety there. See if you got anything you want to add.
No, I think that's absolutely right. It's certainly for Wegovy. So maybe Wegovy itself hasn't been around for more than a few years. But as you said, Ruth, we've been prescribing medications that manipulate GLP-1 hormone for almost 20 years for people with diabetes now. So it may be that in years to come we'll find that there's something specific to Wegovy that doesn't apply to all the other GLP-1 medications or specific to Mounjaro. But currently, based on 20 years of data from the other drugs, there's nothing obvious that's come out that says we shouldn't be prescribing it as we are. Obviously, there are certain people that shouldn't take these medications, but we'll tell you that if you come to us and give us your medical history. But as long as it's prescribed safely for you, at the moment, we believe, as we suggest, it's relatively safe.
Brilliant, thank you. Somebody's saying they've been on Wegovy for 12 months and have lost a considerable amount of weight, but still have quite a lot of weight to lose. So well done for that is a major achievement. So well
Yep.
done. How long can that person stay on their high dose of medication for? And, have we got any advice around that?
As long as you need to. So it depends how much more weight you have to lose. And of course, it's difficult to give individual advice in these cases. So you'd need to reach out. If we're prescribing for you, reach out to us through the messaging service and we'll be able to advise. But in general terms, this medication can be given long term. So in the NHS, it isn't prescribed long term for weight management, but that's because of cost. It's not for any other reason. Whereas for diabetes, people do typically stay on these medications long term. And so, as long as you're doing well on it and you're happy on it, then medically speaking, there's no reason why you shouldn't stay on it.
Yeah, and just, monitor what's going on. Make sure you're doing those lifestyle pillars alongside getting that movement, getting on that muscle mass is really working for you. Looking at your body composition, if you have the opportunity of jumping on scales and seeing what's going on in terms of your body composition, that can be really helpful at really understanding how to get your body really in a nice metabolically healthy place, and just see how that goes. I would say somebody is saying it's their second time taking Saxenda and it's not as effective as the first time. Is that normal?
Okay. Is it normal? Not necessarily. Is it abnormal? In the sense of, do I think this is anything to worry about? And this is something I haven't heard before. No, it's not abnormal. I'm sorry to hear it because a lot of people do restart medication and have maybe not exactly the same response as last time, but comparable response to last time. So, it hasn't worried me that there's something terribly wrong with you. It just seems a little bit unfortunate. Maybe you need to increase your dose. Maybe you need to try a different medication. Maybe your brain's going, oh, this old thing, I know what this is. No, you can't fool me. So maybe you just need to try one of the others, maybe.
Brilliant. All right. That's really helpful. So yes, let me see. I saw something that popped up. Somebody was asking, Adna, if you could share the resource on how to take the injection, that would be helpful. Somebody's asking for that in the chat box. Somebody is saying that they are eating around 1,500 calories a day, but not seeing seeing your weight loss results slowing down. This week, you didn't do anything differently to last week, but have put on a few ounces, which is crushing, isn't it? It can be really difficult to cope emotionally with that. I know we shouldn't focus on the scales, but it's really hard when the dial isn't moving down. Try and ignore the scales. I know we say this, and I know how difficult that can be, but try and, if you're really focusing on the scales, try and put something in there as well in terms of, am I sleeping better? Am I feeling more sense of energy? Can I walk more comfortably? Is my pain less? Whatever is relevant for you to be monitoring alongside. Maybe always have that as a secondary thing that you're keeping tabs of. Do your clothes feel more comfy? Don't forget this is a journey and it's not a race. And we're all very different. The rate that people lose weight, even with the GLP-1, will vary for everyone. So we're all different. Our bodies respond differently. We'll have ebbs and we'll have flows. And it's about just being consistent, just turning up for yourself every day. And that's how it goes. And as somebody's just said, in the chat box, they sometimes see that they're losing inches or centimeters, but that the weight isn't changing. And that absolutely can be. And just refocus on those pillars, make sure you're drinking loads of clear fluids and really supporting everything. And maybe just have a look at a BMR calculator and making sure that if you've lost a considerable amount of weight, it may be time to actually think about, am I eating actually too much? So have a look at all of that. So many questions. I think we've picked up the majority of trends. We,
Ruth, can I chip in with that last one?
yeah, please do.
Yeah, so the only thing I'd have to add is what sort of 1,500 calories are you eating? And you may need to look at
Good point.
what's in there. And Ruth, it's normally the first thing you say.
I know.
So I was waiting for you to say it. Yeah, I'm going to make this ridiculous just to make the point, and I'm not advocating for either of these, but I'm sure it makes perfect sense to people who are listening that 1,500 calories of chocolate does not do the same thing to you as 1,500 calories of salad. Okay, so neither of those is a good idea, okay, because you need a more varied diet than that. But maybe look at the 1,500 calories and say, well, could I be eating better quality 1,500 calories? Maybe that might be the difference that you can add to everything else that Ruth has said.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry for people having a really difficult personal time. Don't forget that stress is going to have quite an impact on your body's ability to let go of that weight. So just also when you're under huge amounts of stress, just be really kind to yourself. Stay on the journey, but just even if maybe if it's a really tough time, then actually just plateau. Be happy to just stay where you are for a couple of weeks. Don't expect miracles when there's so much chaos going on in life. It's too much. We expect perfection, I think, where we probably should be kinder to ourselves. So
Yeah.
We've got 1 minute left. Have you got any last comments you'd like to make? Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions. I hope we have. We haven't picked them up individually, but we've got the trends covered, hopefully. Anything
Um,
specific to you, please ask
just
the
just
team.
for that last person, be your own best friend. So if your
Yeah.
best friend was going through exactly what you're going through right now, what would you say to them? Would you say, "Oh, come on, you're rubbish, you're a loser, you haven't got this. What's the point?" You would say, "Come on, I love you, I support you, you've got this, you can do this." That's the inner monologue you need to be having, which we all need to be having, but specifically for you, whoever you were.
We should start our day by saying that to ourselves, shouldn't we? Take care,
Absolutely.
everyone, and thank you so much for your time. We will be back next week, and we've loved meeting you and having your questions. So thank you so much, and thank you to Sue. Really fantastic having you here, and thanks to Adna as well.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Have a good week. Bye.